Yes, so you can start your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Ranveer, for having me, for this important international summer school on, economics of aging. And it's my privilege to talk to your audience. And I understand that this audience is not really economist. So I will try to speak in a very non-technical manner. And we will have questions from, you know, both economists and non-economists at the end of the talk. And when I talk about the economics of aging, the three important questions that come to my mind is one, we have to think about the labor market repercussions. The labor force participation plummeting, that will have severe consequences on economic growth. Second is the fiscal space for increasing attention for the aged population in terms of public health and social security contributions. That requires a fiscal space that we need to analyze in detail. So these are the three things I would love to highlight when we talk about the economics of aging. The first is about the labor force participation and its impact on the economic growth. Second is the public health cost. And third is the importance of having the social security network that needs to be enhanced. Having said that, we need to understand as economists what is our primary goal or primary objective when we speak about the prosperity of our country. If our ultimate goal is to have increased economic growth, then the aspects related to the economics of aging may not get adequate importance. And if you go one step ahead from the economic growth, perspectives to economic growth plus, I'm not reaching up to a concept of gross happiness index or anything, but just a growth plus paradigm, then we will get sufficient policy space to talk about the economics of agents and its impact on the aged population. And if you think that economic growth is everything, then you run models which try to help you in understanding the dependency ratio and how the lack of demographic dividend, and if the aged population is significant in the overall population structure of your country, then that kind of modeling and the questions and the policy perspectives related to that is entirely different from when you focus the overall economic goal or the overall development goal of a country is happiness or economic welfare. So when we think about from this perspective, we do not run certain models which give us an answer that one kind of a structure of the population leads to decline in economic growth. So we need to have policy perspectives to understand this in terms of increasing your GDP, because GDP is not everything. If you talk about beyond GDP concept, we need to understand that the policy perspectives need to be focusing on, both market economy and unpaid, unmeasured, statistically invisible care economy. And the issues related to the aging population that comes under the question of whether your country has a comprehensive economic policy package for the care economy. Do you have sufficient care economy infrastructure to deal with these issues? So that question is very relevant. And my friend in ILO, Saima Lassim, she sent me a message today talking about a solidarity economy. And what exactly is solidarity economy? That is not based on the concept of GDP. It's much beyond. Solidarity means we need to look into the vulnerable segments of the population and what are the fraternity networks or the solidarity networks which are available in the society to tackle these issues we need to look into. So the solidarity economy, that kind of policy perspectives needs to be given emphasis. And ILO has been talking about it, and it is closely correlated to the care economy perspectives. And we know that when we look into the statistics, the care economic infrastructure or the care economic policies, such kind of data building is not there. It's quite invisible. And all what we have is the time use survey. And the time use survey is a kind of new technique to capture, the kind of issues related to the unpaid, unmonetized sector in chronology of time. So you ask a person about the chronology of time, and you can code that activities into economic and non-economic, or SNA and non-SNA. SNA in the sense systems of national accounts. So systems of national accounts captures those activities which can be included in GDP. But when we talk about the issues related to the aging population and the issues related to the care economy, that doesn't come under the GDP concept. So the measurement, what is not measured and what is not monetized, that is not a part of public policy narrative. That needs to be changed. Then only we will be able to understand the problems related to the aging population. And now comes the question of what exactly we can do in terms of the economics of aging when we focus on a comprehensive care economic package. And in the comprehensive care economic package, it's not only it's predominantly child care is what is focused by the public finance across countries, but we need to focus on what is a requirements of the old age. What are the important policy narratives which are required in the care economic sector to tackle the issues related to the old age. And the way we are tackling now in the context of India is we don't have a compassionate benefit care leave. In the sense, in the context of Canada, they have compassionate care benefit that's provisioning is there. What exactly is compassionate care leave? If your close relative, elderly relative, ailing relative needs your attention, you are allowed with dignity and job security to go and attend to your ailing relative. And such kind of provision is treated with dignity, and they get benefit also, when they are away from the work to attend their ailing close relative. But in India, we know that the opportunity cost is very high. If you are away from the job to take care of your ailing elderly relative, then you are on toes. You are always called back for by your boss, because it's not given that dignity the way it was given in the northern Europe context or the North American context. And what exactly I meant when I talked about the Northern Europe, there was a public policy revolution that has happened in Northern Europe. And we can get a lot of clues from that public policy revolution. So when they think about the public policy, they also base their assumption of those public policy narratives from the perspective that the fundamental independence between individual, that's the basis of dignity, love, and care in a society. And what exactly a public policy can contribute to that, for the basic dignity and for the basic fundamental independence between people. So the old people live in the Northern Europe, especially in the Scandinavian countries, with dignity, with support of the state machinery. When the state machinery supports the elderly population, the kind of outcome is entirely different from, the policy perspectives are, they are absent in the context of, many countries, it's absent. So what I meant is you have to understand the counterfactual, that if our policy narratives are not based on the economic growth paradigm, and if we base our policy, perspectives based on that dignity aspect, on the economic welfare aspect, then it is not only GDP, the overall economic development is going to go up. So it has an efficiency perspective. But if you're focusing just on the policy narratives based on that market economy, what is visible, what is measured in terms of GDP, then the overall economic well-being will not be as great as if you focus on the resource allocation and efficiency in the unpaid, unmonetized sector. Now, take the example of health sector. In the health sector, we focus only on the perspectives related to the client, but not from the care provider's perspective. Only in the context of Mexico, the care providers' perspectives were incorporated into the care, the health policies. And the importance of the significance of incorporating the care provider's perspective is so crucial in the time of macroeconomic crisis. So in the time of macroeconomic crisis, in the time of recession, we cannot say as economists that we will tackle the macroeconomic crisis first and then we will look into the issues related to the care economy. Then we are not getting the picture complete, in the sense, for instance, if you look into the public sector in health infrastructure in the times of macroeconomic uncertainty or macroeconomic crisis, when the health expenditure come down, who is bearing the brunt of that? When the hospitalization days are coming down, then the care provider in the household, of her ailing relative or of his ailing relative, she's taking care of. But the psychic cost, the time cost, and what she or he has undergone, that opportunity cost, or whether she quit the job or whether he has taken without pay leave, so many issues we need to understand the moment we incorporate the care economic providers perspective. But in many countries other than Mexico, we don't have the care economic providers perspective incorporated in the public health policies. So that is quite crucial. And now, with the intervention of the government and also with the increase in the status of living, nutrition levels in many countries, life expectancy have gone up. And we know that when the life expectancy increase, then the composition of the population shift. We will get more aged population, but we need to ask the question whether that is, we need to measure the life expectancy or we need to measure the disability adjusted life expectancy. So whether, the population is healthy. So what are the issues we need to tackle for them to remain healthy? Increasing life expectancy is quite crucial, but whether the aged population are living happy and healthy, that's another thing which we need to look into. So when we look into the models, different models in different countries to tackle these issues, it can be of two types. One, state supporting them by state providing the homes for the aged population. Second is community based solution. Third is within their own house, their own household, they may be living alone, but they have to live with security and safety. So what are the provisioning by the government to make them happy, secured and safe and healthy within their own environment, not by going into a community based institution or a government institution. So what are the ways in which the government can support? Because children are in different city. So how we tackle these issues, either parents will be with us in the city in which we have to earn a living, the bread and butter. Otherwise, the children, they travel to the city in which their parents live, like a component of their salary they kept for traveling quite in a high frequency manner to meet them, to take care of them and come back to work. So that kind of traveling to the cities in which their parents are living. So this is another solution. Third is the market based solution. Like we have certain agencies, private agencies, in which we seek the help. Of course, the health-based help, health-based support, and also, related to, palliative care, also related to the other, daily course, the support, that agency, the private agency support we help. So when we look into the solidarity economy, the different agents playing in this is not only government, but private agencies, then civil society organizations. So the stakeholders in this process is not only the role of government, the government alone, but we need to understand what are the stakeholders, how they have to play, roll out this. Now, in the context of India, if you look into the care economic perspective, of course, we have one bar related to the child care. Like 2 years, we can take in discrete or in continuity, we can be away from the work hours to take care of the little children. But we don't have a comprehensive care economic package, in the sense the care economic provisions for the child care cannot be used if we are using that for taking care of the ailing relative, elderly relative. So that flexibility of compassionate care is not there. It's only child care. So one immediate concern is increase this childcare benefits for women and men. It's not only for women alone, to maybe 2 years childcare. So maybe 1 year in discrete or in continuity, if you can come up with a comprehensive care economic package in which you can be away from the workforce to support your elderly ailing relative, that can be a wonderful way in which you can support. Otherwise, flexi hours, that's quite a kind of very minute, very microscopic economic decisions to be taken to support case to case basis. But the broad macroeconomic solution is, of course, the state machinery should be coming up with the provisioning of supporting pensions, tweaking the limit of the working age. That is not a silver bullet to solve this issue, because many countries will think that we will increase the retirement age and we can tackle most of the crisis, and even the fiscal space and all we can tackle by tweaking the what do you call the retirement age. But that is not the silver bullet to tackle these issues. We need to take these issues in much more comprehensive manner. Of course, India does not have that much of serious issues like the way Korea and Japan are facing right now. Because if you look into various country context, Korea and Japan, they have the composition of that elderly population in the total population is quite huge. So the way they tackle the issues, and we cannot just confine our discussions only to the aged population when we are talking about a public policy perspective, because in these countries they're also talking about the reasons for why there is no children, why women are deciding not to have children. So there are many policies to support the baby booming policies or the baby bonus policies. Such kind of things are happening in Singapore, South Korea, in Japan. So we need to co-read these two issues. Then only we will be able to understand the picture, correct, the dependency ratio and the overall, the fiscal space and the life cycle. Where exactly, the fiscal space is increasingly providing the attention in a country. If you look at the public finances, whether the focus of the public finance is more on the population of the age group of early child development, or we are giving importance in the public finance decisions to tackle the issues related to the aged population. So in the life cycle, where exactly the focus of the public finance in a particular country, that analysis of the life cycle analysis of the fiscal space needs to be looked into to understand things in perspective. So these are the quick points that I noted down. And, my point about, happiness index, in Bhutan, they constructed the happiness index. And in this, when we talk about the gross happiness of a country, we need to ask people what exactly is happiness, how you experience happiness. And we need to look this question and get answers from various age groups. And when we talk about the happiness, what exactly is happiness to the elderly population, we need to understand that, the way they perceive happiness. And most of the times, the way the elderly population perceive happiness is in terms of the stable relationships, whether there is someone to support them in the time of crisis. So that stability in the relations, that is a way, the happiness is defined by the elderly population. And the second aspect related to the happiness and the overall well-being, the way the elderly population perceive is, the freedom and in which they can choose a kind of living they want to live. So what exactly is a state machinery as provisioning to support that, to remove the unfreedoms of the people? So what is a way in which they can live the way they want to live without over dependence and getting psychologically affected from certain living environments? So that is the next important element when we talk about happiness. So relationships, the stability and security in relationships, the removing unfreedoms. So these are very crucial when we talk about about the concept of the welfare and happiness. So when we talk about the economic policies, only unusual economists talk about the kind of care economic perspectives to be incorporated into the macro policy making. But otherwise, mostly economists talk about only in terms of GDP. So the first the change that has to happen in this macroeconomic framework itself, what exactly as a country we are looking forward to. Because if you ask the aspiration of a low income country, of course in many meetings in UN, I attended, but the aspiration of a country is to go from the low income to a high income. So that's the aspiration. So we have SDG goals, we have sustainability development goals, but we have to reach to a certain threshold of income. Then comes the question of happiness. So that's a way, when we talk to the people to explain happiness. So once you reach a particular point in which you secure income to earn living, then you look around the other things in life in which there's a long term effectiveness of the earned income, because money just per se does not speak everything. So money plus what extra you need to be looking into. So I can understand that threshold, because livelihood crisis, once you overcome that, or once you reach up to a certain threshold, then you look into the different elements of happiness. So then comes the question that the movement from GDP to gross happiness, what exactly has happened in Denmark, what exactly has happened in Finland to translate this high income into economic welfare of the population, of the well-being. So that transformation, we need to look into the Scandinavian countries, especially the Finland, Sweden, Denmark, and to understand what exactly has happened over there. And I remember a documentary, and I was visiting professor in Uppsala in Sweden. There, a professor asked me to watch a documentary, a Swedish theory of love. So she told me that what is lacking in the existing economic paradigm, if you watch that movie, you will be able to understand. And that documentary is exactly what I mentioned earlier about the public policy revolution that has happened in the context of a Scandinavian country, to understand that the fundamental independence between people, that's a basis of real love and care in the context of a society, in the context of an economy. So what exactly the government machinery needs to support for that fundamental independence, from between each other, so that everyone can live authentic. So that should be the assumption of the models which we need to be focused upon when we generate economic models to tackle the issues related to the care economic infrastructure. And of course, these are statistically invisible sector. We need to focus more attention on the measurements issues and measurement, because everything needs to be quantified. The moment we need to speak to the policymakers, they ask us not only the compelling stories told by the aged population, but also they ask us what is the outcome quantified. So quantifying the issues is also important when we talk about economic growth issues. So quantification is relevant here. There, the time use survey is quite a handy statistics. It's a very different kind of a primary survey which helps us to understand the chronology of the time. Then you impute wage or impute price to it to understand the statistical invisibility of the sector, and the care provisioning which is required to that sector. These are the quick points that came to my mind, Professor Rendreed, when I talked about. And thank you so much to Vishwaneedam for having me for this important deliberations. And we can open the floor, and if you have any questions, then I'm ready to answer you.